Inflation is rising. What are we going to do? What does that mean? Everything's going to crash. Oh, really? Maybe not. Stick around. That's what I'm talking about today. Hi, welcome back. My name's Joe Brown. I'm a realtor with Century 21, Elizabeth Beggins, located in South Tampa. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. I point because I don't know what side it's on, right? So hit the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. I'm interested in your comments and thoughts about this episode and all episodes. Most importantly, share this with your friends and family who you think could benefit from this information. Thank you so much. So as I said in the introduction, inflation is rising. The latest report that came out said inflation is up 6%, which is the highest year-over-year growth in 30 years. Now, I have to tell you, I'm an old fart, okay? And 30 years puts me at 1990, and it's kind of hard to think. It's been 30 years. Seems like just a few weeks ago, right? So what does that mean? So first of all, how do they measure the inflation rate? So there's the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. And the CPI looks at thousands and thousands of products across different categories, right? So maybe it's food, eating out, food in grocery stores, it's clothing, it's shoes, it's handbags, it's gasoline, it's heating prices, cars, used cars, new homes, right? So the CPI looks at all those elements, but then they also look at prices across the country, all different segments of the country, and they compare the prices. And so, year over year, inflation is up 6%. And there's a couple causes for that, right? So first of all, we know housing is up quite a bit, right? Just in the Tampa area, year over year, housing is up almost 25%. Gasoline, and my wife just told me today, gasoline jumped almost 22 cents in 1 week. Gasoline, heating, fuel costs are up 50% year over year. So those elements really skew the growth, the 6%. So why are prices going up? Well, it's about supply and demand. So people have more money. Why do they have more money? Well, part of it is the stimulus checks that we have received during the pandemic, right? That people have been receiving stimulus checks. Also, because of the pandemic, people weren't going out and spending money as much. So a lot of families have built up reserves of money that they want to spend now. And what's happened, so we see that in housing, right? Because people have the stockpile of money, I call it a stockpile, right? But they have more money that they're using for down payments and so forth. But now we have supply chain issues. We are back ordered on cars and parts for cars. We're back ordered on computers. We're back ordered on iPhones. We're back ordered almost on everything. And we hear stories about hundreds and hundreds of ships offshore and they can't unload the material. So it becomes a matter of supply and demand. People have money, they want to buy things. There are fewer things to buy. So what happened in the housing market, right? There were fewer homes on the market, more people wanting to buy, and it drove the prices up. That's what we're seeing across the board with everything. With food, with clothing, with shoes, with purses, things are going up because there's more money to spend and fewer items to buy. So that's the law of supply and demand. Well, what's the government response to this? So first of all, economists think the supply chain issue will alleviate maybe middle of 2022. Maybe by next summer, it'll start alleviating. So that means the supply may be higher. I mean, the demand may still be there, but the supply is higher and things will balance out. So one step the government is taking is to help ease that supply chain issue. The second step government takes is they raise interest rates. Why would they raise interest rates if inflation's rising? Well, inflation's rising because people, it's cheap to borrow money to buy things, right? So what they do is they raise interest rates and people say, oh, it's too expensive to borrow money, so I won't spend money. And so there's less demand. And if there's less demand, prices come down. Stick around for my January episode when I give my prediction for the 2022 housing market, right? So less demand means lower prices. So that's why the Federal Reserve will increase the interest rate, makes money more expensive to borrow, so there's less money in the system, prices come down, and controls inflation, right? It's that balancing act. So what does all this mean for the mortgage industry and home buying? Well, if interest rates go up, then it's more expensive to borrow money. So just a few months ago, mortgage rates were about 2.6, 2.7. Right now, they're 3.1, right? The economists think that interest rates are going to continue, and by next year, November, interest rates could very well be 3.8. The mortgage interest rate would be about 3.8%. which is about 0.7% higher than it is now. I was going to say I did a video on this, but I did a Facebook post talking about interest rates and what that move means over the long term. So just be aware, we think interest rates are going to rise. It's more expensive to borrow money, maybe less demand for houses. However, the supply of houses is still very low. So that's something I'm going to keep track of. I hope this wasn't too heavy for you. So just to recap, yes, inflation has gone up. We're going to see a rise in interest rates to make money more expensive to borrow, fix the supply chain, maybe things will balance out. So those are things we want to keep track of. Listen, if you have questions about this or comments, or you think, Joe, you're full of it, you don't know what you're talking about, please leave that in the comments below. I want to hear that, okay? So thank you so much for being here with me today. I share this with you because I want to be your trusted advisor, okay? I want to help you make the educated move when buying a home or selling a home. So thank you so much. I love sharing this information with you. Check out my website, joebrownc21.com. Let me know how I can help you or your friends and your family. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you later.